Well, we're here with Brian Armstead, longtime friend,
Yes.
independent journalist in the auto industry, and you're kind of the guy that knows what's going on. That I would say you kind of like hang out in the corners in the shadows, but you're like 6'7". So.
6'9". I can't
6'9".
hide. I can't
Even
hide
taller.
anywhere. There's no room for Sasquatch to hide anywhere. I can promise you that.
So, as a freelance journalist, like, who do you write for? What do you write about? Where are you trying to find the stories right now?
Well, let me give you a brief history of my road to the auto industry. So I grew up in Baltimore. My mom, when I was 8 years old, she bought me a book called "What Makes a Car Go." And
Thank her.
I read
for
that
it.
book cover to cover. It was a little, coloring type of book. Then I started building models, visible V8s, Wankel rotary engines, every tester model you could dream of, AFX race slot cars, Hot Wheels, Johnny Lightning. I was just a car freak. Had bogus subscriptions to every magazine because I couldn't afford to buy them. So Science and Mechanics, Road and Track, Car and Driver. I sent in cards for all of them. I would read them. Obviously I didn't have the money to pay for them. So when the subscription expired, I just do it again.
That's right.
Amazing.
So I've always been a car junkie. And one day, one of my friends, I was working with the federal government at the time. I had a 32-year career, NIH, Voice of America, USAID, State Department. Been all over the world. I've been to 81 countries. One of my former friends said, "Hey, Brian, you know everything about cars. Why don't you pitch a story to some newspapers and magazines?" So I started with some small black newspapers in Baltimore, and that worked out okay. But it just wasn't building at a speed that I thought was conducive to any kind of real impact in the industry.
Yeah.
Then there was a gentleman named Randy Payton who was actually at the show today. He's now a professor at UDC. He had a magazine called African Americans on Wheels, AAOW. And I was at the National Press Club one day for a General Motors Chevy Corvette media reveal. And he walks over to me. This was like 1999 or so, maybe 2000. He walks over to me and says, "Who are you and why are you not writing for me?" So that kind of launched my entry into really gaining a foothold in the automotive media side of the business. So I became one of his senior editors. The magazine was produced twice, bi-monthly. His son worked for the magazine, Kamati Rollins, who has a really large display downstairs called Art of Motion, the Automotive Rhythms display.
Oh wow!
He does it
Hopefully
every year.
we'll see that
Oh, I
tonight.
need
Yeah,
to
it's
check
like
that
50,
out.
50
Yeah.
plus cars. It's really,
Oh, my
it's
goodness.
lights out.
That's one of the things they say about the show. There's a lot of art.
Yeah, Phantoms. The manufacturers are painting cars. They have these white cars that they're actually creating artwork with on the vehicles.
Unbelievable.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
So wrote for Randy for a while, and then I met a guy named Alvin Jones, who was a big radio legend here. He was doing a show on XM radio, so I would go on with him every Saturday night, and then finally the opportunity for me to have my own show on XM called AutoSense came to fruition. So that was part of the Radio 1 network, Kathy Hughes and her family. And then it became Washington Post Radio with Warren Brown, and it became, I've been a freelancer with a lot of different organizations, Forbes, Wheels, WTOP, I freelance for WTOP. Rest in peace,
What he's saying is he's
Sotis.
not done much in his life,
Couple
so he's
things.
really trying to get ahead at this.
Yeah.
He's really trying to figure it out.
So, long story short, and I just wanted to say rest in peace, Dimitri Sotis from WTOP. We used to do a podcast called Connected to Cars with Mike Paris, the car guy for WTOP. And Dimitri would do his weekly reviews with Mike Paris, and he died unexpectedly last week. So, great guy, 55. And WTOP has been the top-rated station here in the area for as long as the Ford F-150 has been the top-selling pickup truck.
Yeah, it's
You
a
know,
while.
It's been
It's
a
a while.
while. So today I'm a senior editor with Pursuitus.com. It's a luxury website. I do cars, travel, hotels, booze, you name it. Just got picked up by U.S. News and World Report. I'm on WAOK in Atlanta from time to time. I'm on with Nick Miles from time to time, his radio program. So, and as you know, I'm the voice of God for the National
You got to say
Association
it.
of Minority Automobile Dealers.
Say it how you say it. The voice.
The voice.
Yes.
So NAMAD, and we see each other every year at the annual meeting.
Yeah.
It's been in Miami, but we'll be in Las Vegas next year. So this is how I met these guys, and always had a lot of respect for you.
He's going to start. I'm telling you, he's about to turn the interview. I'm just telling you right now, it's coming. I can feel it. He's like, so that's how I met these guys. Paul, tell me where you're from.
Yeah, exactly. So here I am, man. I'm blessed to be here.
Obviously, you are like, you're in the pulse of it, right? From the consumer side, the actual product side. You're thinking about like the car guy type of things, but you also are integrated into the OEMs and the dealers.
Yeah, you hang out around dealers a lot. I think that's unusual.
Well, it is. It is, and I only hang out around dealers when I'm in that NAMAD sphere.
Okay.
Otherwise,
which is usually when we see you.
Right.
Aside from that, you're more consumer side, writing about the details of
exactly.
the cars.
I produce their magazine Treads every month.
Okay, yes.
I failed to mention I'm also one of 50 North American Car of the Year jurors. So I'm a NACTOY juror. That's why I have my fancy little NACTOY
And
pin
he
on.
stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Exactly.
No.
So obviously, you have a pulse on it, right?
Yes.
You have a clear pulse. You know, administration changes, EV changes, manufacturers making moves. Like where are you feeling and sensing like the consumer is moving right now as we head into 2025?
Well, the biggest change, and I'm sure you guys are all over this, is the move away from full electrification to whatever comes after the goals of manufacturers moving towards full electrification. Cadillac, Audi, Volvo, Mercedes, BMW, General Motors, they all threw the hat saying, we're going to be full electric by 2030. We're going to be fully electric by 2035. Screech! I just did an article for Pursuitus. It's about the Volvo XC90 and the XC90 T8. The XC90s are hybrids. The T8 is a plug-in hybrid. And Volvo has kind of tamped down a little bit their goals of full electrification by 2030. And now they'll have mostly hybrids. Toyota, you saw the madness on the stage in there. Toyota, no full EVs really to speak of. With the new administration, you have to kind of go with the flow. And most manufacturers have dialed back their full EV expectations for several reasons. Consumer demand. Everybody who has an EV generally has one.
Right.
Yep.
The cost of insuring.
And it's not just they generally have one. They're, by and large, they are still third cars.
Exactly. Because of the next point I bring up, the lack of infrastructure.
Right.
And then, you got Teslas catching fire in water. You've got people who go to a electrify whatever station and half the machines are broken because some yo-yo stole the copper cables.
Right.
Out of the charging area.
Yeah, we heard a stat the other week that 20% of attempted charges fail, right? Yeah. For whatever reason. Maybe it's not available or it's not accessible or the
cable's
machine
gone.
is down or things like imagine going to 1 out of 5 gas stations and being like, didn't work.
Imagine trying to get to New York in an EV and you have you're faced with 1 out of 5 stations that don't work. I envisioned if the manufacturers had continued with this madness in my expectation to go full electric, I envisioned, a trip from New York to Baltimore or to Washington, D.C., you would have, even if you built 1,000 space EV charging stations along I-95, you'd still have people waiting out on the highway to get charged.
That's a terrible vision.
Come on.
Terrible.
And then look, I grew up in Baltimore, okay? And it wasn't the greatest part of town. All I can think about is being in a charging station in the middle of the night,
30 minutes,
and some yo-yo comes and tries to jack me in the middle of the night.
Right.
So I don't want any parts of it.
Right. And I think
give me a hybrid. I'll put some gas in it.
It's a great middle. It's a great middle step, even to get used to the technology.
Exactly.
All of that being said,
yes.
Do you have a favorite EV? You've probably driven quite a few.
I would have to say, and I'm kind of fancy, so I would have to say it's the Rolls-Royce Spectre.
We saw that car
That's one I haven't rented yet.
Yeah,
we haven't rented that.
I had a chance to.
It was that close.
It was like the EV6.
Yeah.
Right. Model 3. The Rolls-Royce was the next. I was trying to.
I had a chance to drive the Spectre twice in Las Vegas, and actually drove it in the parade for the Vegas Concours this year, which is really cool.
Man.
Check it out on
Wow,
YouTube.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But if I had to bring myself back to reality,
Yep.
any of the Kia or Hyundai products.
Oh my goodness.
Chevy, the Chevy Equinox EV is really nice.
I've heard good things about that.
Yeah,
Have you driven the what's the Sierra Denali EV?
I'm sure I have.
probably similar as
There's
the
a couple
Hummer.
of cars in my driveway every week. I lose track sometimes.
Oh,
quite
yeah,
frankly.
they just drop them
I
off.
forgot to mention one of my biggest affiliations. I'm on every week on KCBQ in San Diego on Dave Stahl's You Ought to Know program. So I've been doing that for about 12 years, every Sunday, and it's a great program. We talk about everything.
Do you ever sleep?
Well, yeah.
Occasionally.
He's like once
Dave
in a while.
Dave Stahl doesn't sleep.
He's like, I ate last week. It
Yeah.
was great.
So it's been a lot of fun, man. When I was doing projects for State and USAID, I did some really great things to try to help people around the world and help democracy around the world. Not that we need to force feed democracy, but sometimes you just try to give people a helping hand when they want to go in that direction. So I've been blessed, no doubt about it.
Man, I'm like, the onion just keeps peeling back. It's so good that we know you, I feel like. I didn't know how good it was.
I know.
We're
Yeah.
going to be calling you every once in a while. Brian,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
want to give a shout out to Damon Lester.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Damon
Please
was
do.
president of NAMAD at the time, and maybe I guess I've been with NAMAD for about 10 years now. I kind of lose track. And Sheila Vaden Williams had recently passed, and Damon became president. And I saw Damon in the hallway at one of these shows or something like that. He said, "Hey, why don't you come work for me?" And I didn't really take it seriously when he first asked me because I had so many
Things going on.
affiliations on my plate. I mean, I literally had like 6 or 7 affiliations. There's the whole print media thing. I used to write for the Washington Times, the Washington Post. I mean, the whole thing about print media is that it's, Black Enterprise Magazine, Atlanta Tribune Magazine. It's kind of whittled away because of great content creators like yourselves, and I'm okay with that. But I finally said yes, and that's how I got to become involved with NAMAD, an outstanding organization of African American, Asian American, Native American, and Latino American, Hispanic American dealers. So that I've learned a lot working with NAMAD, and again, I want to give a shout out to Damon for bringing me in, and to the current president, Perry Watson IV, and to all the people who have served as chairman
Legends.
over the years. Damon
All
is
of
now
them.
chairman.
Legends,
of-
everyone.
That entire organization is full of legends.
They
And
really
you get
are.
to know them. You go to that event. If you haven't been to the NAMAD event,
Yes, it's quite something.
It is a special event.
really is.
It is really special.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, always good to sit down.
Man,
This
you
is
guys
probably
are the
the
greatest.
longest we've gotten actually to sit down.
And talk to you. This is
So
great.
I know we're always
Yeah.
running to and from, so thanks for giving us
Yeah.
a few times. Let's not make this the last time.
And thanks for creating We're Here for NAMAD, Damon Lester's podcast
Amazing
that you
show.
guys
Oh, yeah.
put together. So
Amazing
all
show.
good.
That's just getting started.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure being on.